Hello, everyone, and welcome to Herosner Podcast Season 2, Episode 18. It's Thursday, June 2nd, not 22nd, 2nd,
Boy,
2022. Yeah, well, I just want summer to start. I'm your host, Vic and as always, I'm joined by my multi-talented co-host, Mr. Mike Balyan, sitting right next to me, where we discuss our great Armenian history, covering different people, eras, and topics. Please share, like, and subscribe if you like our podcast on the podcast platforms. Please give us a 5-star review. And if you're on YouTube, share it so your family and friends can subscribe. Yeah, we got to get our subscribers up.
Please.
First of all, how are you?
Man, I'm digging that intro.
Yeah, that video intro is nice, right?
Good job on your part, man.
Thanks, man.
Finding those clips.
Yeah,
amazing.
People who listen to it on the podcast obviously don't get to see it, but if you go watch it on YouTube, you'll see our new intro with the music and the background and everything.
Yeah,
it's pretty cool.
It's pretty nice.
It sure is. Our topic today is the history of Armenia in the 7th century, and it's part 1. We're going to do 2 parts. There's a lot of information to cover.
As always.
Yeah. We were off last week, so those of you who messaged us, thank you. We appreciate all the support. Keep in mind that it does take time for us to prepare for the show, and sometimes we need more time, busy lives. We're not
things definitely get in the way.
Yeah, I wish we were more current affair type of thing, that it'd be easier, but no.
I don't know.
History.
Even that's difficult, man.
Yeah,
like trying to keep up with all the stuff going on all over the world.
Yeah,
Oof.
yeah. I don't want to.
Yeah, come
on. If you missed our last live show with Dr. Arsen Bobokian about the Vishapakars, please go to our YouTube channel and watch it. It was a great show. We learned a lot.
Fascinating.
Yeah. Very interesting topic. Yeah. And if you haven't listened to it, go back, listen to it as well. But just visually, when you watch it on YouTube, you get to see the person and the things we shared, the videos we shared, which was great.
And they're doing good things. So if you guys want to reach out and maybe, donate to the cause,
which was through Ararat Eskijian Center.
Yeah. Reach out and
you can actually
make a kind contribution.
Yeah, you can actually go to their website and make a donation there. And we encourage everybody who's local here in LA to go visit the museum. Yeah. It's great, I want to mention again about the Popok Animation project that we started last year. We donated from our part as well for 2 computers, and other people got involved as well. So that is up. They have students now. They actually have a waiting list. 4 of the students are actually,
the lab looks good.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, I saw the video.
Yeah,
the lab looks good.
He said, I talked to Alvan. He said they're going to make a new clip and he's going to share that with us, and we'll share it on our Instagram. So make sure you're following us on our Instagram page as well. And as I was saying, there is 4 of the students, I believe, are from the soldiers from the Artsakh War.
Good.
Young kids.
It's good to hear.
Glad to see that they're getting into the animation, 3D and everything. So, that is going. So, and that leads me to, the way we do this, why we help with these projects, because the proceeds that come in from the sculpture sales, we move that, we invested into these type of projects, helping out people in Armenia, however way we can. Yeah. But, I think that's pretty much it as far as announcements. Again, our topic today is the history of Armenia in the 7th century, part 1. Before we start kind of reading it, I want to say a lot of and even the last one we did from the 6th century, it's funny if you notice, like, most of it's about Armenian history, but it's
taking place somewhere else. And,
between... It's always the Sassanians and the Byzantine. It's like that this is that period where Armenia was just caught in the middle.
Yeah.
So everything that we read and talk about has to do with these 2 big empires, that everything that was taking place was within Armenia.
It's currently we're kind of going through this whole phase of we're discussing different climates, call it that, in different areas in and around the Mediterranean, stretching all the way to the Caspian Sea and Black Sea, right? So we're covering the trademark points, call it that, or whatever.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's a good way to put it. So, all right, we're gonna start. So, in 602, the Byzantine Emperor Maurice was arrested and killed by one of his generals, Phocas. On November 23rd of 602, Phocas proclaimed himself as the new Byzantine emperor. However, he was widely regarded as a usurper. Remember that word usurper from the last one? Yeah. The Sassanian Shah, Khosrov II, who, as we mentioned in our previous episode, was able to secure his throne with the support of Maurice, also regarded this act as illegitimate. Therefore, Khosrov II felt that he could retract the Treaty of 591, by which most of Armenia was ceded to the Byzantines, and once again reoccupy those parts of the Marspanate of Armenia that were, according to the treaty, handed over to the Byzantines. Thus, the Sassanian-Byzantine War that had ended 13 years earlier had once again resumed. You know, it's always little breaks here and there.
Well, the Sassanians don't seem to want to give up.
Yeah. So by 608, Khosrov II reconquered the territory of Armenia that had ceded to Maurice. Sambat Bagratuni, the notable Armenian general who had earlier served as the governor of Herosner, an ancient region located in the southeast of the Caspian Sea, in 607 returned to Armenia and became the de facto Marspan of Armenia. Now, during Sambat Bagratuni's reign in 615, the new Catholicos of Armenia became Komitas. And this isn't that Komitas, so we'll get into that.
Second, yeah.
Catholicos Komitas in 618 erected the Saint Ripsime Church, which became one of the Armenian architectural landmarks, and today is the UNESCO World Heritage Site. The church was built by Komitas to replace the original mausoleum built by Catholicos Sahak the Great in 395 that contained the remains of the martyred Saint Ripsime, to whom the church is dedicated to.
Yeah.
So a lot took place here back and forth, with Emperor Maurice, being killed, and Phocas basically, again, another one of those guys that just said, by force, I'm going to go ahead and become the emperor.
It seems like it was a common practice.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of other things.
A bit about Komitas. I know Komitas that everybody knows is the Komitas that's from the 19th and 20th century, but obviously
I got to say something after you introduce this.
Yeah, well,
really interesting.
And I felt that we should talk about this Komitas so people know how the Komitas that everybody knows is actually, is kind of, what's the right way to say it? Like almost like
when you read it, it, like as you introduce this, it'll build a narrative towards what I want to say.
This actually has nothing to do with that thing. I just felt like we should definitely introduce.
Well, it's an interesting historical character and actually had a lot of significance.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. So Catholicos Komitas I was born sometime in second half of the 6th century in the village of Acht in the Aragatstone County of Ararat Province. He received his primary and theological education in the city of Divin under the patronage of Catholicos Movses Yervard, who reigned as the supreme patriarch of Armenia Apostolic Church from 574 to 604. Now, in early 7th century, Komitas was ordained as the Bishop of Taron. Komitas has been credited with putting together a number of important texts which outline the canons, the theology, and the core tenets of the Armenian Apostolic Church. And the canons, we've talked about that before. These texts have survived thanks to Sibius, who cited them in his work. In 615, Komitas was elected as the Catholicos of Armenian Church and reigned as its head until his passing in 628. Now, immediately thereafter, Komitas became renowned for his building activities and thus earned the title the Builder. Most notable, he completed the erection of the Cathedral of Saint Gregory in Divin, renovated the mother cathedral of Holy Echmiadzin in Vagarashapat, and in 618 built the Saint Ripsime Cathedral. Catholicos Komitas is also credited with establishing a number of schools and learning centers throughout Armenia.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the guy did a lot.
Yeah, he did.
Now, Catholicos Komitas is arguably best remembered for his musical compositions, again, you know, including the liturgical hymns known as the sharakans and similar spiritual music, which was sang throughout Armenian churches during Mass. You want to say something?
No, go on.
All right.
No, I'll wait until
musicologists who have studied Komitas' sharakans believe that they are based on ancient Armenian folk melodies that actually came from the Armenian pre-Christian period.
Yeah.
That's very interesting.
Yes.
Thus, Catholicos Komitas preserved ancient Armenian folk melodies by incorporating them into the liturgical hymns that were preserved due to the fact that they became part of the Armenian church liturgy. And it's actually interesting to note that the renowned Armenian composer Komitas from the late 19th and 20th century, who was given the name of his famous predecessor of the 7th century, also did the same by writing down and preserving many Armenian folk melodies that prior to that were not written down and were only orally sang from generation to generation by Armenian villagers throughout Armenian.
I swear Komitas is a time traveler. He's a time traveler, dude.
I think so.
Like, I mean, 13 centuries later.
Yeah.
Or earlier, however you want to look at it. Almost to a T. The same thing.
Or you can say that he was reborn.
Or reborn.
Yeah.
But I don't know, man. Let me think sci-fi here, all right?
All right, okay. Time traveler it is.
He's got to be a time traveler, man.
Well,
like, that's insane. When I read this, I'm like, are you kidding me?
Now,
it's
do you
almost
think
the same thing?
So, do you think someone from the future who has created a time machine went to that time, took him, and went back?
Maybe in another form. I mean, because we don't know what this guy looks like.
Yeah, we don't.
We don't know what the
Imagine you go back and it's exactly
century.
like Komitas. That'd be trippy.
Man.
All right, so that was just a side thing we wanted to talk about, Catholicos Komitas, because again, it was interesting to us. So continuing on with the 7th century history.
Armenians are probably known for time travel too now, huh?
Yeah. There you go.
The Church of Saint Ripsime is known for its fine Armenian style architecture of the classical period, which has influenced many other Armenian churches since. A pre-Christian Armenian temple, similar to the Temple of Godni and dedicated to one of the Armenian pagan goddesses, stood in the place of the church prior to the 4th century. During excavations in 1958, the foundation of a monumental stone building with traditional Armenian ornaments was found under the supporting column.
Wow.
The monumental exterior of the Church of Saint Ripsime is considered one of the great achievements of medieval Armenian architecture. It has been described as a gem of Armenian architecture and one of the most complex compositions in Armenian architecture. Along with the also 7th century St. Gaiane Church, the Church of Saint Ripsime is a model of the austere beauty of early Armenian ecclesiastical architecture. Catholicos Komitas was a poet and a musician, having contributed to the hymnography of the Armenian Apostolic Church. His Sharakan, Devoted Souls, earned him a special place in the Armenian Apostolic Church hymn book, or Sharak Notes.
Yeah.
This hymn, noted for its poetic and lyric beauty, was composed to commemorate the completion of the building of the Church of Saint Ripsime. Thus, it is not surprising that Komitas, the great Armenian composer of the 19th and early 20th century, upon his ordination as era monk, was named after the musically gifted 7th century Catholicos Komitas.
Yeah.
I still say he was a time traveler.
Well, like I said, if he was, then
let me enjoy this.
All right, go for it. Okay. Now, the Byzantine defeats have created a great deal of disconnect among the Byzantine aristocracy. Heraclius the Elder, a Byzantine general of Armenia, actually I should say Armenian origin, who had distinguished himself in the war against the Sassanian in the 580s, came to the realization that unless Phocas was overthrown, an effective defense of the Byzantine Empire would not be possible. Heraclius the Elder is first mentioned in 586 as a general serving under Philippicus during the Roman-Persian War of 572 to 591. Heraclius the Elder commanded the center of the Byzantine army in the Battle of Solahon in the spring 586. You know, we talk about these periods. I know we mentioned these numbers and everything, but have you noticed these when we mentioned these wars between, let's say, the Roman-Persian or the Byzantine Sassanian, 572 to 591?
That's a long war, man.
That is 19 years. That's a long war. Yeah. And the amount of people that perished, the things that happened, the destruction, and this is all happening.
Number of battles.
Middle of Armenia.
Yeah.
So
Armenia is always the theater of war.
Yeah, and I constantly want to bring this up for people to understand that, these are two big empires that continue to fight for almost, I want to say, how many centuries or even thousands of years, and we were caught in the middle all the time.
Well, the saying, being stuck in what is it, or between a rock and a hard place?
Yeah,
literally.
Yeah. It's always the case. Yeah. So now in circa 600, Heraclius the Elder was appointed by Emperor Maurice as the exarch of the governor of Africa. In 608, Heraclius the Elder rebelled with his son, also named Heraclius. I mean, what else would he name him, right?
Of course.
Against the usurper Phocas. Using North Africa as a base, the younger Heraclius managed to overthrow Phocas in 610, beginning the Armenian origin Heraclean dynasty, which would rule Byzantine for more than a century. Now, Heraclius the Elder died soon after receiving the news of his son's accession to the Byzantine throne. Not a bad way to go, right?
No, not at all.
According to the 7th century Armenian historian Eusebius, Heraclius hailed from the Armenian royal dynasty of the Arshakunis.
I mean, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Guy was the emperor of the Byzantine Empire.
Yeah. And
he was Armenian.
Yep. And from the Arshakunis too,
Yeah. It's a true story. We're not making this up.
And when we mentioned this, as promised, we'll cover the details of the Armenian, origin dynasties of the Byzantine, basically from the 7th to the 11th centuries. In upcoming episodes, there'll be part 2, and then we have more content coming up. So,
however, another foe that we have mentioned in the past,
many times,
Khosrow II, also refused to recognize the new Byzantine emperor and continued to advance on Byzantine domains. In 611, taking Syria. In 612, taking Asia Minor, and in 613, taking Palestine, or going after them. So in successive years.
In 3 years, yeah.
Khosrow continued his assault upon the Byzantine Empire. In 616, Khosrow's armies conquered Egypt. In 617, Sassanians reached the outskirts of Constantinople. It seemed like the borders of the ancient Achaemenid Empire of Darius the Great, that existed more than a millennium before, was being restored by the efforts of Khosrow II.
Yeah.
Heraclius was in a predicament, and it seemed that the capital of the great Eastern Roman Empire was now being threatened. He was seriously considering moving the capital to Carthage in northern Africa. That's a ways off, too, by the way.
Yeah, it's pretty far.
Yeah. There were already some efforts being made in transferring the imperial treasures from Constantinople by ship to Carthage, but this is where things got real shaky.
Mm-hmm.
However, the ships that set sail from Byzantine capital were wrecked while crossing the Mediterranean Sea, and the treasures sank to the bottom of the sea. Emperor Heraclius regarded this as a bad omen, good thought, and a sign that he should stay in the capital and defend it at any cost. I mean, how much gold or treasures did they lose, man?
Yeah. Do you think it's still there?
I don't. Who knows, bro?
Interesting. If
I mean,
anybody knows about this history,
if you think about the route they would have taken, if you look at the map as to where Carthage is and to where Constantinople is, you're going through some of the Eastern Greek islands that are along the coast of the western side of Turkey, right? I don't know what the waters are like there, but who knows what could have happened. And I'm sure, I mean, when was this? In the 7th century?
Well, no,
I'm
the
sure
reason
I'm sure they've somebody, Robert Ballard
listen,
or somebody like that is probably recovered them.
I mean, the information we're reading here is researched by mostly Armenian historians, and other colleagues from other cultures as well. So, I mean, if this really is the case, and I'm assuming all this has been fact checked because we've been told that it's been fact checked. So, somebody got to it, or it's still there.
I mean, look,
road trip.
I mean, look, I can imagine a lot of those sunken treasures from way back then.
Yeah,
people know this information. Yeah, right. This information isn't new.
Oh yeah,
somebody's got to have. I'm sure at some point either the Greek government or the Turkish government had to have paid for expeditions to go out and look for these things, because look, I don't know how it works with international waters, but let's assume it was in Greek side of waters. The Greek government would be entitled to the treasures being found. If you and I went, I believe that's how it works. If you and I went and found it, and we spent, let's say, $2 million, and we get like, I think I've seen some stuff in back in the day on like Discovery Channel, like Robert Ballard stuff. Yeah. If they discover anything like this, they get a certain percentage, but the majority of it goes to the country who's controlling those waters. I believe. Don't quote me on it yet. If any of you guys want to look into it, it's an interesting topic, but I'm sure there's still lots of treasures down there. Yep. Anyway, safe behind the powerful walls of Constantinople, Heraclius was able to sue for peace in exchange for an annual tribute of 1,000 talents of gold, 1,000 talents of silver, 1,000 silk robes, 1,000 horses, and 1,000 virgins to the Persian Shah.
Now the number of the day
is 1,000. Yeah. I mean,
1,000 virgins. How do they
but that's pathetic.
I know, but like, how?
Like, even then, how do you go round up 1,000 Persians? Like, virgins.
Persian virgins. Oops. Well, yeah. 1,000 virgins? That's easy. That's the easy part. Making sure they're virgins.
But how does one gather something like that? Is there a database? What's up with that?
I don't know.
I still think it's stupid, but still, to make that a part of your deal? Anyway, I could go on.
Imagine the guy who's in charge of that.
God.
All right, let's move
on. Do you want me to get deep with it? How do you go to messing up a lineage? Like, you're crossbreeding 1,000 people possibly. Yeah. Because of a deal, because you lost gold, whatever. Yeah. Well, anyway. The peace allowed him to rebuild the empire's army by slashing non-military expenditure, devaluing the currency, and melting down with the backing of the ecumenical patriarch of Constantinople, Sergius I, the church treasures melting the church treasures to raise the necessary funds to continue the war. Sergius I in 610 had also supported Heraclius and had crowned him as the new emperor of the Byzantine Empire. It was in this dire hour that Heraclius decided to do everything in his power to save the Byzantine Empire from complete collapse.
So, I mean, I'm trying to understand here.
Desperate times calls for desperate measures.
He gave up 1,000 gold
of everything, 1,000 of
everything for peace, to rebuild and go back and attack.
It was an interesting strategy if that's the case. I mean, it sounds like it according to this, but
okay,
or according to the narrative.
I mean, I'm just surprised on the Persian ends that.
We'll get to.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. We'll eventually in this particular episode we'll get to what I found interesting, and we'll get to that. They weren't really doing so well.
Yeah. Now, Heraclius followed the old military doctrine that the best defense is offense. He put together a significant army and in 622 launched his counteroffensive against Khosrow's army stationed in Asia Minor. On April 4th, 622, prior to personally leading the army into the battle, Heraclius made his adolescent son, Constantine, and his heir apparent, as his heir apparent, also appointed Patriarch Sergius and Byzantine general Bonus as his son's regent, basically to protect him. Mm-hmm. This way, Heraclius made sure that if he would fall on the battlefield, there would be a smooth transition of power, and the Byzantine Empire would not be destroyed as a result of infighting for the imperial throne. You know, it's kind of smart.
Insurance
It's
policy.
almost insurance policy, you know, deed of trust, I guess.
Okay. Speaking in real estate terms, yes.
So Heraclius assembled his forces in Asia Minor, probably in Bithynia. And after he revived their broken morale, he launched a new counter offensive, which took to the character of the Holy War and Achiriopoetes
I came
image
across that
of
word.
Christ was carried as a military standard. Achiriopoetes means basically it's an image of Christ that is not made by man or drawn by hand. It is something that naturally appeared on what? I don't know. But it's supposed to be basically almost like a miracle.
Yes.
You know. So his campaign also somewhat resembled the campaign of Alexander the Great, who also launched the Reconquista. Let me try that again. Reconquista against the Persian Empire nearly a millennium earlier. The Byzantine army proceeded to Armenia and inflicted a defeat on the army led by the Persian allied Arab chief, and won a victory over the Persians under Shahbaraz. Heraclius would stay on campaign for several years. On March 25th, 624, he again left Constantinople with his wife, Martina, and his 2 children after he celebrated Easter in Nicomedia on April 15th. He campaigned in the Caucasus, winning a series of victories in Armenia against Khosrov and his general Shahbaraz, Shahin, and Shahrablakan. Have you noticed all these names? It's always Shah, and then whatever continues with.
Persian Shahs, you know?
Yeah.
In the same year, the Visigoths succeeded in recapturing Carthage, capital of the western Byzantine province of Spania, resulting in the loss of one of the few minor provinces that had been conquered by the armies of Justinian I. In 626, the Avars and Slavs, supported by a Persian army commanded by Shahbaraz, besieged Constantinople, but the siege ended in failure, while a second Persian army under Shahin suffered another crushing defeat at the hands of Heraclius's brother Theodore. See, I'm telling you, they're having problems.
Now, if Heraclius is of Armenian descent, is Theodore of Armenian descent?
Possibly. I mean, it's an interesting name, but I mean, you have to understand that, you know, there's definitely the influence of naming children or whatnot. I mean, does Heraclius sound Armenian?
No, I'm just saying, is it from the same mother? You know, kings back then.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, we didn't come across that information,
But wait, his father was of Armenian origin,
yes.
so then he would still be somewhat, if he's not half or... Yeah, so continue.
We should look into that.
Mm-hmm.
In 627, Heraclius scored a decisive victory near the ancient Assyrian capital of Nineveh in Upper Mesopotamia. The Byzantine emperor was quickly closing upon the Sassanian capital of Ctesiphon. Discredited by the series of disasters, Khosrov was overthrown and killed in a coup led by his son Kavad II. We have talked about Kavad as well, who at once sued for peace, agreeing to withdraw from all occupied territories of the Byzantine Empire. Interesting. And it looks like they didn't like what Khosrov was up to. In 629, Heraclius restored the true cross, said to be the cross upon which Jesus was crucified, to Jerusalem in a majestic ceremony. That's interesting. Earlier, in 614, Khosrov II had removed the part of the cross held in Jerusalem as a trophy after he captured the city. What a punk.
Yeah, that's not cool.
Yeah. See, that guy we don't like. Thus, Khosrov II's dream of reviving the glory of the Achaemenid Empire had backfired. In fact, as we noted, Heraclius' counteroffensive was more reminiscent of the campaigns of Alexander the Great, which ended the Achaemenid Empire. Here, too, Heraclius' campaign brought the end of the Sassanian Empire much closer. Kavad II's reign is seen as a turning point in Sassanian history, and has been argued by some scholars as playing a key role in the fall of the Sassanian Empire.
Yeah.
See? They were having some issues.
Yeah.
So that deal,
I mean, the kid came in and kind of almost,
the 1,000 for everything deal,
yeah.
right, makes a lot more sense. It seemed like they were just willing to take whatever they could.
Yeah. But I want our listener to understand that we keep talking about, we mentioned Heraclius, the first one, the father and the son. Again, everything that's happening, I know it has to do with Byzantine, the Byzantine Empire versus him, but this is an Armenian who is leading it. So keep that in mind while you guys are listening.
The Emperor of the Byzantine Empire.
Yeah. So now, the final blow was made not by the Byzantines, but by the Arabs, who only a few years later, in 632, launched the invasion of the weakened Sassanian Empire, bringing the once mighty empire to its end in 651. After his victory over the Sassanians, Emperor Heraclius took for himself the ancient title of the King of Kings. The title historically was used for the first time by the Armenian kingdom of Ararat, or Urartu, in the first half of the first millennium BC, when it was one of the great superpowers of the ancient world. With the rise of the Achaemenid Empire of Persia in the second half of the first millennium BC, the title was taken from the Armenian by the Achaemenid kings, only to be restored to Armenia by Tigran the Great in the 1st century BC, when the renowned Armenian king defeated Parthia and once again made Armenia into a vast empire of more than 3 million square kilometers. The subsequent Artasid kings of Greater Armenia after Tigran the Great also carried the title of King of Kings, which was noted on their coins in Greek as Basilius, Basilion. Starting in 629, Heraclius styled himself as a Basilius, and the title was used by the Byzantine emperors for the next 800 years. The reason Heraclius chose this title over previous Roman terms such as Augustus has been attributed by a number of scholars to his Armenian origins.
Almost feels like this is
kept it real.
This is like 1,500-year-old like heavyweight title belt match.
Yeah.
King of Kings.
I'm
the King of Kings now. No, I am the King of Kings now.
Hey, but you know what? The guy honored his ancestors and his bloodline. So
that's good to know that history had reached them, to that point, and it was well.
I mean, listen,
you're
talking about the Byzantine. He could have easily have, like you said, Augustus, like the Roman, titles, terms. But no, he went for King of Kings.
Good for him.
Yeah.
In 628, for his support against Khosrov II, the new Sassanian Shah Kavad II recognized Varaz Tirots Bagratuni, the son of Sambat IV Bagratuni, as the new Marspan of Armenia. During his reign in 630, Catholicus Ezra I built the great cultural landmark of the 7th century Church of Saint Gaiane, which is also located in Vagashapat, within a walking distance of the Cathedral of the Mother Church of Holy Echmiadzin. Yeah. Saint Gaiane Church is a 3-nave domed basilica with an octagonal drum resting on 4 internal pillars that divide the interior of the church into 3 naves. The middle sections of the side naves are elevated slightly over the corner ones and roofed with vaults across the building, forming a transversal nave. At the eastern wall of the church's interior is a semicircular apse with a rectangular chamber at either side. 3 portals lead into the interior of the building. The main portal enters through the arched portico, while 2 side entries are located at the north and the south walls. Catholicus Ezra also built the temple of Bhagavan in the Bagrevand county of the Ararat province, which was no less important than the other outstanding churches of the 7th century. Yeah. The site was already revered in pre-Christian Armenia, as it was a burial place for Armenian high priests. For example, the high priest Majan, son of Artashes I the Merciful, was buried here in the 2nd century BC. The pre-Christian Navasart of New Year's celebration commenced in Bhagavan and were accompanied by festivities with the participation of the king. So it's amazing. So it's a very ancient celebration.
And the fact that now, I mean, is Saint Guyana is still there.
Yeah, of course it is.
So, no, that's what I'm saying. It's still there. So if that's the case, then is Majan still, is his burial site still there?
Has to be.
Huh.
Should be.
Interesting. Okay. I got to find out about that. That's very interesting.
Good point.
Now, Varastidots appointed as Sparapet Theodore Rashtuni, who in 634 succeeded Varastidots and became the Marspan of Armenia, and who would later play a key role in defending Armenia against Arab insurgents. Varastidots had quarreled with the neighboring Marspan of Atropatene and was forced to, along with his family, to flee to Emperor Heraclius, who at the time with his army campaigned in northern Mesopotamia. Now, according to Cebius, Heraclius welcomed him with great honor, gave him valuable gifts, and exalted him above all the Nakharas of his kingdom. I mean, that says something, right?
Yes, it does.
In 635, or I guess 635 to 637, however, Varastidos became involved in a conspiracy by several Nakharas to overthrow and murder Heraclius and replace him with his son, John. Guy got caught up in the BS back then, you know?
Yeah.
The conspiracy was uncovered, and Varastidos was exiled to an island near Africa. The treatment he received was more merciful than that of his co-conspirators, as Varastidos had opposed the murder of the emperor. On his deathbed in 641, Heraclius pardoned Varastidos and made his successor, Emperor Constantine III, swear that he would recall him and his family from exile and restore their honors. That's pretty forgiving of him.
Very.
You know.
But it gets interesting here.
Yeah. However, Varastidos was only recalled in 645 through 646 by Emperor Constans II at the urging of Theodore Rashtuni.
Yeah, 4 or 5 years later.
Yeah.
Why did it take so long?
It took so long.
Yeah.
But we're talking about Emperor Constans now.
Yeah.
Emperor
So in that time span, in that very short time span, there was obviously another change.
Yeah, another change.
Yeah.
Where was I? Varastidos Emperor Constans at urging of Theodore Rashtuni. Yeah, there you go. Varastidos quickly fled from Constantinople to Armenia, but after assurance of loyalty, Constans then appointed him governor of Armenia with the high rank of Kuropalates, which literally meant the one in charge of the palace, or high-ranking Byzantine courtier.
I like that word.
Yeah.
Kuropalates.
Kuropalates. Say that 10
I'm probably
times.
not saying it with the correct accent, but I kind of like that word.
I think it's Kuropalates. That's how it's pronounced. I believe so. Now, before he could be formally invested, however, Varastidos fell ill and died, fortunately. He was buried next to his father, Sambat Bagratuni, at the Bagratuni fief of Darwink, at the Kogovit County of Ararat province in Armenia. So that's the tale of Varastidos, I guess.
Yeah, it is.
I mean,
it's interesting change. Like I said, we were talking about the time span in which, oh my God, the time span in which he was basically told to be released.
Yeah.
Right. Or granted, whatever.
Well, first of all, let's give some
happened.
respect to Heraclius for actually after,
Of course.
you know, I mean, it's not an easy thing to do, knowing that somebody, even though he was against it, but he was still part of the the whole conspiracy to overthrow him.
Maybe he was accessory to knowing about it and didn't do anything about it.
That could be,
You
as
know,
well. Yeah.
Could be. I'm just kind of giving I'm looking at it from the glass half full.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
From 635 to 638, Armenia was locally ruled by Sparapet David Saharuni, who also held the titles of Kuropalatis, or Ishkhan, and the Prince of Armenia and Syria. Wow, that's a lot of titles. A lot of area to cover.
Yeah. Armenia and Syria.
Yeah. David was a Nakharar from the princely house of Saharuni. David Saharuni was also part of Varastidos' plot against Emperor Heraclius. Ooh, co-conspirator. David Saharuni was attacked by the governor of Byzantine Armenia, General Mejej Ganuni, but managed to evade capture and killed Majej with the help of Ganuni's own Armenian troops who were sympathetic to Saharuni. Earlier, Majej's Armenian troops were instrumental in the Byzantine success against the Sassanians during the Byzantine-Persian Wars that culminated in the overthrow of Khosrov II in 628. Majej also served as the Sparapet, or commander-in-chief, of Byzantine Armenia from about 630 to 638, and during this time may have been responsible for the founding of the Cathedral of Maren, whose erection is also attributed to David Saharuni.
Interesting.
There's a lot of back and forth, no?
Yeah.
After the killing of Majej, David Saharuni quickly obtained support for the local feudal lords. As a result, Heraclius was forced to nominate David as Kyropolatis. The Armenian 7th century historian Hovan Mamikonian, there they are again, adds that the Nakharars also gave him the title of Ishkhan, or the Prince of Armenia. There's your confirmation. 3 years later, the nobility overthrew Saharuni, and Theodoros Rushtuni took his place as ruler of Armenia. The most detailed source covering the events of these years is recorded by Sibios.
Yeah. It's funny how Mamikonians. We're in the 7th century.
Well, we're
and
not
they
going to
still
fight. We're done fighting. Now we're
Yeah.
just going to record the fighting.
Yeah. Taking a break for a couple of hundred
We'll
years.
get back into it later.
Yeah, later. Now, in mid-7th century, the Byzantine Empire once again underwent a new administrative reforms. 4 original themes, or the main military administrative divisions of the Byzantine Empire, was established. They were established in the aftermath of the Slavic invasion of the Balkans and Muslim conquest of part of the Byzantine territory, and replaced the earlier provincial system established by Diocletian and Constantine the Great. In their origin, the first themes were created from the areas of encampment of the field armies of the Eastern Roman Army, and their names corresponded to the military units that had existed in those areas. The theme system reached its apogee in the 9th and 10th centuries, as older themes were split up and the conquest of the territory resulted in the creation of new ones. The original theme system underwent significant changes in the 11th century and 12th centuries, but the term remained in use as a provisional and financial circumscription until the very end of the empire. The Armeniac theme was one of the 4 original themes established sometime in the mid-7th century out of the territory of Lesser Armenia, also known as Armenia Minor. Now, although the mention of Georgia, Turmakes of the Armeniacs in 629 during the Persian campaigns of Emperor Heraclius may suggest the existence of the theme at such an early date, the first unambiguous reference to it in a literary source occurs during the revolt of General Saborius in 667 through 668. Now, the Armeniac theme is also mentioned on a seal of 717 through 718. I'm not understanding. What do you mean 717 to 718? That's the part I didn't understand.
Maybe that's when it was created.
It's created in that year? Is that what they're trying to say?
Yeah.
Okay. Together with the other themes, it was created from the remnants of one of the field armies of the old Eastern Roman army following the disastrous defeat suffering during the first wave of the Muslim conquests, process probably completed by the late 640s. Thus, the army of the Magister Militium per Armenia, the Armeniacs, was withdrawn and settled in areas of Pontus, Paphlagonia, and Cappadocia. Is it Paphlagonia? Paphlagonia. Sorry, messed up on that. Paphlagonia.
That's right. There's some tongue twisters in here tonight.
Giving its name to the region. The Armeniac... See, we take a week off and...
Yeah. You lose your flow.
Yeah. The Armeniac theme's capital was at Amasya, and it was governed by the Staragios, again with these words, or military commander who ranked together with the Staragio of the Anatolic, and
Thircassian.
the Circassian themes.
Yeah.
It's like one after another. In the first tier of Strategio, drawing an unusual salary of 40 gold pounds.
Look, when we
Oh my God, I butchered that, but
Finish
whatever.
this off, and I'll tell you. Finish this off.
The
Yeah,
Armenian
okay.
theme remained in Byzantine hands until the late 11th
Look.
century.
Ladies and gentlemen, when we write this stuff, we can't avoid these words. We have to, because it kind of, I know sometimes we both butcher them, but it's important knowledge. We can't like replace a word with another word.
Yeah, it's impossible.
It's impossible. You
yeah.
have to use these words because it adds to the,
Yeah.
So, the Armenian Nakharas during the reign of the Armenian Heraclian dynasty of the Eastern Roman Empire continued to occupy the highest positions of power in the most important provinces of the empire. Between 625 to 644 Italy, circa, like in the previous century when it was ruled by Nerses Gamsarakan, was also ruled by an Armenian Nakharar, again from the house of Gamsarakan. They're kind of good up there as like a very prominent family, right?
Yeah.
And his name was Sahag. Sahag Gamsarakan.
You forgot that much, the last part. His name was Sahag.
His name was Sahag. I
Yeah.
totally forgot about that. Sahag Gamsarakan was appointed by Emperor Heraclius as the exarch of Ravenna and is considered to be one of the most competent governors of Italy. Scholars have pointed out that during this time, the Armenian military power was essential in not only defending Italy from the Visigothic, Frank, and Lombard incursions, but to a great extent was the basis of the stability and longevity of the Byzantine Empire.
Yep.
Sahag Gamsarakan, who fluently spoke Armenian, Greek, and Latin, ruled Italy for around 2 decades and thus held the position of exarch longer than any ruler during this era.
That's amazing.
Yeah, well-established
20
and
years.
well-accomplished man.
Yeah.
This was a sign he was a trusted and reliable supporter of the Emperor of Constantinople, Heraclius. His widow, Shushan, acquired a late antique sarcophagus for Sahag's tomb. On the tomb's lid, Shushan inscribed the life and achievements of her husband. It's said that Sahag Gamsarakan kept Rome in the West safe for the great Roman civilization and praised his Armenian origin and his unusually long tenure of his office as the ruler of Italy. The magnificent sarcophagus can be admired by visitors outside the beautiful Basilica of San Vitale in Ravenna in northern Italy. I actually looked it up, and it is there. There's images of it.
Now, I've been to Italy, but not northern Italy. So on the next trip, I definitely want to go see that.
Yeah, you guys, when you
And
hear
that
this,
is just-
Google it.
That
Google
is
it.
just
It's
mind
actually there.
blowing when you read about this and you learn about it. How, Armenians and Italy itself, to all our
Yeah.
Italian brothers and sisters. I mean, think about it. For a very long time, your emperor, the generals, to so many leaders, all Armenian.
I mean, you're some of the top
Yeah.
people of the Eastern Roman Empire.
Yeah. I mean, can you
During this time.
imagine, if let's say if United States was an empire and all the head,
It kind of is.
but I'm saying, let's not get into that. But I'm saying, imagine all the
Okay.
leaders were of Armenian origin and they are running one of the, most powerful countries, empires in the
and
world.
the president of
So,
the United States, let's say, was Armenian.
yeah.
I mean, it's literally comparable to it.
Yeah. So now, unlike the long rule of Sahak Gamsarakan, Sassanian Shah Kavad II's reign was to be short. Now, it gets really interesting here.
Mm.
Almost like a
It's drama.
Indian soap opera.
Yeah.
Now, he died from a plague after a few months into his reign on September 6th, 628. The grandees of the empire elected his 8-year-old son, Ardashir III, as the new Shah. In reality, however, he exercised little power, and his empire was controlled by his vizier, Mah-Adur Khanshnap, whose duty was to protect the empire until Ardashir became old enough to rule. However, factionalism was tearing Iran apart. Now, factionalism is basically a
They were split. They were
sub-political,
divided.
within the same political party and
Mhm.
subdivision, so forth.
Yeah, I'm telling you, they weren't
Yeah.
doing well throughout this entire time we're talking about them.
The old rivalry between the Parthian and Persian noble houses had once again resurfaced. During this time, a number of monarchs succeeded one after another, and all of them ruled Iran only for a brief time. This was indicative of the turmoil and instability that the once mighty Sassanian Empire was engulfed in. In 630, Parthian general Sharbaraz, with force of 6,000 men, marched upon Ctesiphon and besieged the city. Sharbaraz, however, was unable to capture the city and then made an alliance with Piruz Khosrov, the leader of the Persian faction, and the previous minister of empire during the reign of Ardashir's father. With the support of both the Persian and other nobles, Sharbaraz captured Ctesiphon and executed Ardashir, his vizier, Mahadur Gansnap, and many other prominent nobles. Sharbaraz then ascended to the Iranian throne. However, his reign was even shorter. Only after 40 years of ascension to the Sassanian throne, Sharbaraz was killed 40 days later on June 9th, 630, during a ceremony by Farukh Hormizd, who then helped Boran, the daughter of Khosrow II, to ascend to the throne.
What a mess.
But her rule was brief as well. Her sister, Azramidokht, was raised by the Iranian nobles to the throne in 630 and ruled until 631, 1 year. She was, however, the following year killed by Rostam Farkozad in a retaliation for having his father killed during the factional infighting that plagued Iran after the death of Khosrow II. Boran once again assumed the Sassanian crown and ruled until 632, when she was killed during the ongoing Parthian and Persian faction infighting. In order to put an end to the civil war raging throughout the Sassanian Empire, Boran's 8-year-old nephew, Yazdagerd III, who reigned from 632 to 651,
finally,
and was destined to be the last Sassanian Shah, was installed on the throne.
Man, that was like, do you remember as a kid watching wrestling?
Yeah.
The battle royales, right?
I was thinking the same thing. I swear to God, I was thinking the same thing.
Except everyone's dying.
Yeah, it's
I mean, are you kidding me?
this is the one that runs in and doesn't even get to hit somebody.
Yeah,
and just,
doesn't even
falls
get there and
Yeah,
dies. Done.
Oh my God.
What on God's green earth? This is insane.
Yeah.
I mean, finally they put somebody in, and at that point there was nobody left, more or less.
It was just like, all right, let's bring the kid back and everybody relax. But you know what? That's what happens when you're having that turmoil within. I mean, look at Armenia right now.
Well, look, I mean, I know
we
we're
have
laughing.
3,000 political parties going.
Hey, I thought
at
we
it.
weren't supposed to get into modern day politics.
No, but
I'm kidding.
I'm comparing it to what's happening within our own country. With the situation with you got Pasha over there with his party, and then you got the opposition, the Dashnaks, this, that, and then there's these little ones who are joining.
They're going for a power grab.
Yeah,
it's a power vacuum.
Yeah.
That's what happens, right? This happens not just with Armenia, not just with the Sassanians, not with the Parthians. Everyone, I mean, heck, it happened with the Soviet Union collapse.
Yeah.
All of them create a power vacuum.
Yeah.
Then you have a bunch of people who think they have enough support and power. All right, I'm going to step up to the top. I'm going to step up to the top, and everybody's killing each other.
Yeah. Yeah. Until they find a baby and put him on the throne.
It's like everybody's gone. It's like, okay, no, you're 3 years old. You're going to be the king, the Shah, or whatever.
Yeah. But we're going to stop there as far as this part. This is part 1. We'll continue part 2. We're trying to keep the episodes, as far as the podcast episodes, about an hour or so.
Especially with the heavy information, keep them digestible.
Yeah. We try to make it as fun and listenable as possible. So... but that's pretty much it for part 1. Will be we again, guys, with the lives, we have a couple of guests. It's just some unfortunate situations, one after another, cancellations due to illness and some other things that have come up. So
Get to
you
hear
know,
us talk more.
yeah. So we do have lives coming up, and we will announce it as soon as it's ready. It's just we don't want to say anything until it is for sure. But again, follow us on Instagram, and we'll let you know when we have a live coming up. What else? What else is going on? I do want to mention that, guys. This is I think June will be the last month.
Yeah. This is episode 18
Episode 18
for season 2.
Yeah, so we'll have a few more episodes coming up for June, and then that will end season 2.
Mm-hmm.
We'll be taking a summer break. I know you're going to be traveling,
Yeah.
and I might be traveling as well. So everybody can relax and have a good time, and then we'll be back in September with season
Get
3.
some restored
Yeah, more information,
inspirations.
inspirations, more content. And but yeah, we'll let you know. But again, I think June will be the last month for this season.
Yeah.
Besides that, again, as always, I want to thank everybody who's been ordering the sculptures. Thank you so much, everyone. We're shipping them. I know you're getting them. Thank you for posting them. For all the comments. If you haven't gotten yours, go ahead. We have the Ashkens ready. They're going out. We're waiting for some of the registration situation. We're having some issues with that, but it should be ready soon.
The
and then
Komitas is already.
Komitas is already.
Andranik's almost here.
Yeah, Andranik's almost here, and
Yeah.
then we gotta announce our 5th one in the next couple of episodes, and then that will be pre-order as well. So again, thank you everyone who's doing it.
Thank you for everyone who's been ordering and sending us and posting images of the amazing places you guys have been posting them.
Yeah.
Or putting your statues at.
Yeah. And again, follow us on Instagram at medherosned, at patreon.com/medherosned. Please help us become a Patreon, subscribe. It's $5 a month. It's a cup of coffee. It's not even 2 coffees, just 1 coffee with the prices today. But anything else?
No, that's
pretty much it. All right. Well, this is a good episode.
Yeah.
We're back. We took a little break. Got to work on our pronunciations for the next one.
Yeah. I mean, I guess we should go over some of those words.
Well, I try going over them still.
I do too. Listen, I do too, and I try to figure it out. If I can't figure it out, I find some sort of spelling thing on Google or whatever the case is.
It's still, it's like when you're actually like going and recording, and you're just like, oh, damn it.
I know.
Yeah.
Once you go live, it's difficult to. Yeah.
So, all right, everyone. Again, thank you for joining us. And as we always say, end of the show, respect each other, love each other. And until the next episode, take care of yourselves.